So welcome to everybody listening now and in the future. My name is Kate White. I'm the founder and director of Pre and Perinatal Healing Online, the Center for Pre and Perinatal Programs, and the Prenatal and Perinatal Somatic Institute. And it is my great pleasure today to be hosting Sada Theismann, who's a friend and a colleague and someone I've known a long time. And I'm going to read her bio. Today she's talking about the courage to heal. Is that right?
Courage to love again.
Courage to love again, supporting secure prenatal attachment after pregnancy loss. And this is a free lecture that's in preparation for her 3-part series, which starts in March. So March 4th, 11th, and 18th, she'll be doing a 3-part series. And this lecture also grew out of a series that we did for the Building and Enhancing Bonding and Attachment Clinic, where both Sada and I are trained. And so it's wonderful to be able to bring the learning out in a very big way. She's taking the one lecture she did there and dividing it up into 3 parts. But today is the free lecture. And I'm just going to read her bio for you all and then turn it over to Sada. Sada grew up in Germany and Austria and moved to California in 2001. She has been studying methods of healing since 1994 and is trained in craniopsychotherapy, bodywork, expressive arts therapy, somatic experiencing, sexological bodywork, and polarity. Sarah has an MA in pre and perinatal psychology from the Santa Barbara Graduate Institute and studied intensively with Ray Castellino in the last 10 years of his life. Sarah has been working with families and children since 2011 and leading womb surround workshops since 2013. She works with individuals, families, and couples around their early imprints. One of her specializations is supporting couples around their sexual intimacy, and she brings pre and perinatal therapy and intimacy coaching together in her work. So please go ahead, Sada.
Thank you, Kate. And I just want to say hello to everybody. Some of you I know and some of you I don't know, and it's good to see everybody. Hi. Okay, I think I have to screen share now and bring my presentation up. But actually, before I do that, I want to say to all of you, I'm sure you all know the principles. And so I really want to invite you to use the principle of self-care during this presentation and, look away from the screen and get up and stretch or take a nap or do whatever you need to do. And also reach out for support if you need something. If you have a question, please let me know. Just raise your hand. And I think Kate will be monitoring that, or write something in the chat, because we're touching on big themes. So I want you to feel like you can get support if something comes up for you during the talk. Yeah. Okay, so now I'm going to see if I can find my presentation. I'm just trying to, there we go. Okay, so the courage to love again, supporting secure prenatal attachment after pregnancy loss. And let me see what's next in my slides. Sorry, I'm just working through my technology. Oh, I don't have to say anything about me because Kate already talked about me. Everything was in there. But, and I think I also don't need to talk much about my roots, my teachers. Some of my teachers are here. Mary Jackson is here. Judith Weaver is not one of my teachers, but I wish she was. She's also here. Okay. So why did I create this lecture? There's 2 reasons. One is that pregnancy is a time when new life and death are really closely interwoven. Death, either the mom's death or the baby's death, have been a natural part of becoming pregnant and being pregnant for a long time. And in our modern society, we've lost some of the connection with that can happen. Death can happen, and it does happen. And it's part of the flow of life. And in general, we're disconnected from death in our society in many ways. And what that has done is that parents are not prepared, and they're also not supported. So when they have a pregnancy loss, they're not receiving the support that they need. They're often isolated. They don't know what's wrong. They feel guilt, shame, all kinds of things. And often their friends, their family, even their practitioners don't know how to support them adequately. So I want better support. And that's in part why this presentation. And then the other bigger theme is that it happens to all of us. We lose something, we lose somebody in our lives, and do we find the way back to saying yes to life and opening our hearts again? So that's a collective theme for all of us. And I think especially in the pandemic, we all got to feel that and live that. So much loss, so much grief, so much change. And how do we all find the way to opening up to life again? So those are the big two themes for me. And so my intention is just to sit with all of you in these themes and together be in this topic and see what's needed. Yeah. And just right now, I would like to invite you to connect with your own intention for being here. Where are you at with that topic? How has it touched you? And what would you like for yourself? What would you like for yourself around the losses in your life? And also specifically, if you've had a loss of a baby, or if you came into a womb where someone else had left before you were there, where there was a pregnancy loss. And what do you want for yourself around saying yes again and opening again? Yeah. And then maybe you can also check in, what support do you need around this for yourself? From life, from the other people in your life, from yourself, from your practitioners, from me right now. So just connecting with this theme and your intentions. Okay, I will move on. Here are just a few statistics around how common pregnancy loss really is. 30% of all pregnancies, oh, by the way, these are mostly US statistics. I'm sorry about that. I didn't do deeper research, but there's so much out there. So 30% of all pregnancies may end in pregnancy loss, and maybe even up to 50% if we include loss before confirmed pregnancy. That is so often. That is so common, natural, so often. Before 20 weeks, a pregnancy is called a miscarriage. After 20 weeks, it's called a stillbirth. And you can see the statistics of that there on my screen. And most people who lose a pregnancy will have a successful pregnancy later. So most parents who lose a baby, they go on to conceive again and have a successful pregnancy. And successful meaning they have a baby that lives. And that's a wonderful thing. So that's also in part what I want to support with this presentation. And then some statistics around age, really how the chance of a pregnancy loss can go up with age. And also that IVF after implantation has happened has only a slightly higher chance than natural conception of having a pregnancy loss. And then I also want to name this last statistic, which I wish I didn't have to name, but I have to. It's a truth that I feel is important to speak, that in the United States, African-American women have more than twice the risk of stillbirth than Hispanic or white women. Oh. Okay. These are the statistics. And the experience of pregnancy loss is really individual. We should never assume that a woman or a man is having a certain experience around losing a baby just because we think that's how it should be, or that's how my experience was, or that's how my friend's experience was. There's really a vast range of how it can be, and it can be really easeful or it can be really hard. And here are some of the factors that can impact pregnancy loss. So was it early or late term? Was it the first one, or have there been several before? Was there choice involved? Sometimes there's choice. Was it a missed miscarriage? And a missed miscarriage, I did actually not know what that was until I did the research. That is when the baby dies in the womb and the parents don't know, sometimes for weeks. And that can be really hard. That can be really just confusing. How could I not know? How could I miss that? How could that happen? And also having to change my perception of these weeks where I thought my baby was alive and well, and now I realize, oh, that wasn't true. So that can be a really hard one. How physically traumatic was the loss? Sometimes it can be very physically traumatic, dangerous for mom. That can be then also traumatic for the partner who was afraid to also lose the other partner. Is there PTSD left over? Does the body need some support just to land back in safety? So that's where some solid trauma work comes in. If there was more than one baby, did one live? Maybe one lived and one that died. And what was my relationship with the baby? How did I feel? How connected was I? And then, do I still feel that relationship with the baby now, even though the baby has left? Do I still feel the connection? Do I still feel, yeah, that being is out there and I'm still in connection? That can make a very big difference. And how did the loss impact my relationship with my partner? How did it impact my relationship with my family? And finally, just my own relationship with death and dying, and personal, ancestral, and collective history around death, loss, and grief. So there are so many factors that can influence how I'm able to process this experience and where I might get stuck. And in the sequence of this presentation, there's this first part where it's about what happened, where am I in the sequence of loss, grief, and what do I need to move on to opening up again? What's needed? So all these factors come in. And I want to say a little bit more about the last one. So our personal histories around death, loss, our sequencing around that, how we move through transitions in relationships. This is our imprinting around this theme, yes. And so if we lose a baby, our personal and our family history with death and loss gets activated. So not just my own experience, but my ancestral line's experiences, my mother's and my father's, whatever is in there around death will start to resonate in my body, in my emotions, in my energy field. My ways of navigating, moving through loss get activated. My ways of finding safety in relationship again. After I've lost the safety, how can I feel safe again? How can there be repair? That gets activated. My ways of opening up to life and love again get activated. All that is imprinted through all my and my ancestors' prior experiences, both the challenges and both the resilience or the resource. They're both there. So all of that lives in our subconscious mind, our attachment system, our energy field, our body. And what makes it even more amplified is that pregnancy is an incredibly neuroplastic time for both mom and baby, and for the partner too. So in that time, it's incredibly transformative, potentially, because our brains are so neuroplastic. So loss during this time brings up even more than usual. And that means it can lead to more trauma, but also to more transformation and healing. And which one it will be really depends on how much support we get. Yeah. Okay. Big themes. I think I want to talk about the next slide and then have a little check-in here, how people are doing with this. Here I'm naming just some specific topics that can be triggered around death and loss. So one is pregnancy loss before we were conceived. It's also called the haunted womb syndrome in pre and perinatal psychology in that field. I won't say more about that syndrome, but there's a number of syndromes that were developed some decades ago, several decades ago, and that's one of them. So pregnancy loss before we were conceived, it leaves an imprint in the womb, and as we come in, we encounter that. And so if I lose a baby myself, that experience will start to resonate in me. Twin loss. Twin loss is also incredibly common, much more than we know and that we think. So someone who came into the room with me and then left. Of course, that also starts to resonate. Then the loss of a sibling at any time. The loss of a parent. Any of these experiences for parents and grandparents. So that's how it's passed down to the epigenetics and through the, through our systems. And any experience of war or collective violence. So sometimes it's not an official war, but there's a lot of death and violence happening around us in our community. And we have a lot of that in the United States and also in many other countries. If I've had my own near-death experience, coming close to dying, so anything that resembles that movement towards death, even if I've had a very intense surgery, deep anesthesia, full anesthesia, so any layers around death in my system resonate. And there might also be past life experiences of death. And so right now, I just, if you want to, you can take a moment and check in which of these do you have in your own field? Which of these apply to you? I know several apply to me. Whether you've had a pregnancy loss or not, but which ones of these death themes are there for you? And also, what support have you received in the past around these themes? These themes, these experiences. And I'm gonna just stop my screen share for a moment and check in and just see if anybody needs anything, if anybody wants to share anything, if anybody has something coming up. Just want to make some room for connection. It's so great to see all the names of people who are here. Emma.
Hello, everybody. What's really coming up for me is how deeply unacknowledged all of this is. Well, I'll speak for myself, ever in my life. Like a lot of this I'm kind of hearing in some ways for the first time, in the sense of even just in the short time we've been in this talk, even knowing that people even specialize in this work. And how am I ignorant to that? Why have I not heard of this before? And you asked the question of which of these do you carry and what support have you had? And immediately that's what came up for me, was like, well, none, because why would you get support for something that's never even been acknowledged? And so that's what's just very alive for me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I can definitely resonate with that too. And yeah, it's such a loss for us in our culture that we're not getting support around this. Yeah. Thank you, Emma.
I'll jump in.
Great.
I think what's coming up is the terminology. You know, people will say like, oh, it was just a miscarriage. But also the weeks, you know, then stillborn or stillbirth is suddenly like really heavy. And I know that there's ancestral stuff for me on both sides and on my husband's side. And there's, you know, I became very aware of the superstitions that come along with even mentioning it when it happened to me. You know, like we just don't talk about it, so that maybe if we don't talk about it, it won't happen again with this new one. And that's an interesting, like, it feels easier in some way to say miscarriage, but as soon as it's stillbirth, like, there's a whole different realm.
Wow. Yeah, thank you. And I I love that you're naming that superstition and that trying to keep yourself safe, right? Trying to protect by not talking. And that also speaks to the fact that there aren't easily accessible, safe spaces that feel safe and supportive if you want to talk.
Yeah. Well, and then kind of with the haunted womb, you know, like that's on my husband's side, and then that's what was passed down. Then, like, don't tell your daughter about what happened before her, right? And like, wait, that feels weird and confusing. And so it feels good to be talking about this in this way and thinking about how to both support myself, but then how to support other people in bringing this into the light.
Thank you. Yeah, that weirdness when we feel, oh, something else happened and I don't know what, and it's never acknowledged. Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else have anything?
I could quickly say something.
Oh, is that Bev?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I have experienced a number of the things on the list myself. And you know, for many, many years I've worked through to some degree all of those things, but I'm just noticing how incredibly fatigued I am right now. And it didn't really dawn on me when I jumped on the call that both of my parents passed away last year. And so that is, I think, really having a big impact on me with this topic. It kind of like caught me off guard a little bit.
Yeah. And I think that's exactly how it can be with a pregnancy loss. It catches us off guard with all the other death layers that come up. Just like you're saying, oh, I didn't think about that. I didn't make that connection. And here it is. Yeah.
Well, and the thing when my mom passed away that I was just really acutely aware of was that we both almost died when I was being born. And when she died, it landed so deep in my being.
Yeah. Yeah, so many reasons to, for all of us to receive support around this. Yeah. And just what you're saying, it lands so deeply when we have those experiences in our history. Has such a deep impact. Thank you, Bev. Lorena, did you still want to say something? Yeah.
Yeah, sorry for your loss, Bev. Yeah. And I was wondering if you, like, as well as Bev as well. I mean, I didn't think a lot about coming into the practice about my losses. And I'm just wondering if you take into account the loss from abortion.
Yes.
Yeah.
So any miscarriage,
Yeah.
whether intentional or whether it was spontaneous. Yeah.
Yeah. That I noticed that I was looking for the mention in your lines about.
Yes, you were missing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was, I think it was the place where it says, is there choice involved? Yeah. Was there a choice for miscarriage? That would be the abortion place.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you. We can make it more explicit. Any form of miscarriage and any reason for miscarriage is included. Whether it was intentional, planned, spontaneous, whatever it was. Yeah.
I'm just appreciating a lot, Sarah, that you put this together and that I'm being able to, I mean, for the people that I work with and for my families, and I mean, like, that's a very important focus of attention. Thank you. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Lorena. I feel like I would like to move on unless somebody else has something burning they want to say. Okay. Go back to my screen share. Hold on a second. Where is my presentation? Sorry about that. Okay. So the biggest challenge with all of this is not enough support. And it leads to isolation, grief, shame, guilt, and the passing on of these imprints through the ancestral lines in an undigested way rather than a resourced way, a successfully navigated way. Yeah. And we had some people right now who shared about that, and I can relate to that too. And there just aren't support structures in the US. For example, there's no parental leave after stillbirth. There are no national bereavement laws. And it's different in different countries, but in the US, there are no official support structures. Often the couple doesn't get support. The family doesn't get support because the whole family is impacted. If there's siblings, they're also impacted and need support. And there's a collective expectation to move on, to focus on the next child. And like we've been talking about, cultural and collective challenges around death in general and pregnancy loss in particular. So adding support, whatever it is our most impactful tool during this time. I also want to say this is an incredibly deep and dense topic. There's a lot in there. So this is a short presentation, just an hour. And in the mini series, I go much deeper in the 3 stages of the sequencing through this process. Oops. Okay. So the sequence of moving from loss to a new beginning. So in order to move forward to a new beginning, if we want to invite another baby in, then we need to first come to completion and integration with what happened. And once we have that, we can move to preparation for the new pregnancy. And I'm referencing Ray Castellino's concept of sequencing, birth sequencing. I won't go deeper here, but I assume most of you are familiar with that. So the big question is, what support do I need to complete and integrate? What support is needed? And what support do I need to prepare for the new baby coming in and then to move towards conception? And my birth imprints are influencing how I move through these phases, how I move through integration, and how I move through preparation, and where I get stuck. And the learning for all of us is how to get support for the parts that are hard. Yeah. So after completion, we have this opportunity to make a choice, and it is a choice, the choice to say yes again. Daring to open our heart again, figuring out, is it safe to bond? What support do I need to bond again? To have that choice, the power of the choice. Choice brings us back into a present moment self, into our agency. Adult self, present moment self. And how do I can come back to, okay, I'm choosing to say yes, I'm ready for that choice. I have the support for that choice. Sorry, something just popped up. And that experience of bonding after loss, what is that for me? And what is it for the being who wants to bond with me and with me and my partner? So I'm having an experience, but the being coming in also has an experience. Yes. And if you think about your history with relationships, how was it for you if you had an experience when you wanted to get close to someone and they had lost someone important to them before? So you wanted to start a closer relationship, whether it's friendship or whether it's love relationship, romantic relationship, whatever it is, and they've lost someone. And how was it for you to come in, to move towards them? And there's someone who left through death, through divorce, through just a break in the friendship, in the connection. And wherever they were in that process of coming to completion with that and being open to someone new, and what would you have wanted from them for that? What inner work would you have liked them to do so that they are ready to receive you and have space for you? So that's a really helpful question to ask parents who are considering to conceive again. I think everybody gets this experience. So every child deserves their own place in the family. The baby who left deserves their own place, their own story, their own meaning, their own celebration of who they are. So whatever relationship I had and have with that baby who left, that was their life. That was my life with them. And that deserves its honoring and its respect and its celebration. That is what it was. And nothing can take away from that. That deserves its own space. And now this new being coming in also deserves their own space. And that they both can have their place. And sometimes people feel, oh, it's the same soul coming back. And that might be true or it might not be true. And just leaving that space, even if I have a really strong feeling, yes, that's that same soul coming back, to leave the space for that child to have their own narrative around that, their own truth around that. Maybe they feel like that, yes, or maybe they feel like that, no. And let them have that own space. And so the integration around the baby who left, that support, that integration of the processing of my death layers allows for making space for the new baby. So that's why that first part is so important. And that's why I spend so much time on that first part. And then the new baby can bring joy and healing for the family, and healing the pain of loss is not their responsibility. There might be healing that happens, and that's not their job. They can both be true. So I might receive so much healing from them, and still making space for their own purpose for coming, their own choice, their own intention for coming. Yeah. And with that question that I asked you earlier, what would you have liked in that situation of being there in a new relationship with someone, and someone was there before and they were lost in some way, they left, there was a break in the connection? Most people say, oh, I really just want to make sure I have my own space, and those two aren't merged, that I get to have my own relationship with that person. And then when we give that own space, then there can be room for the bonding with that baby. And as we in this room know, bonding and attachment doesn't start after birth. It doesn't start at birth. It doesn't even start prenatally in the womb. It starts at preconception. So all that time is incredibly important for creating secure attachment. And we also know that secure attachment is the biggest gift you can give any child, more important than which university they go to, which neighborhood they grow up in. More important than anything is secure attachment. That will give them so many things. And what does that mean? It doesn't mean I'm only showing the positive feelings or I'm hiding the difficult feelings. It means I'm myself, I'm authentic with who I am, and I'm in connection with the baby as who I am, while I'm also receiving support from myself. So the baby is not my main support in this experience. I have support on the outside, enough of that. And I'm being authentic with the baby, with all the feelings that are there, including the feelings about the past baby. So this might be, oh, I'm having some feelings right now. I'm feeling so sad because I'm thinking about your sibling who left, or who I lost, or who died, and I'm feeling the sadness in my heart. And it's not about you, and you don't have to do anything about that. And I have support. Or it might be, I'm just touching my fear that I could lose you too. And that really causes a lot of constriction in my body. And this is just my fear because it happened before. And you don't need to do anything about that. And I have support. And I'm doing self-care. So applying the principles, right, the Beba principles, and just being authentic and honest with the baby. And we know that if we do that, if both parents do that prenatally, it has a tremendously positive impact on the relationship with the baby, on a secure attachment. Yeah. So yeah, I think that last part is just so important. We don't have to hide anything. We don't have to pretend. We only have space for only the easy aspects of our feelings. We don't have to sacrifice who we are. Yeah. So here are some summary points around that part in the sequence, which is about opening to the love, opening to the bonding, opening to the attachment to the baby. After we've done the integration and we've come to the place of making a choice for a new relationship, then here we are. And so the first part is differentiation. Past from present. Myself from my ancestors. This is happening to me. Oh, this happened to them. It's different. This baby and the other baby. Myself and my baby. My feelings and my partner's feelings. So differentiation. Being honest and authentic, making room for all feelings. Getting enough support. In the in the mini-series, I talk more about support. I really explore that piece. But enough support from myself, from my partner, from my family, from my friends, from my community, from nature, from the larger holding that holds all of us, from my practitioners. So getting enough support. And also trusting the baby's choice to come. The baby is a vast being that's finding its way into this body, and it's growing in my body or in my partner's body, and trusting that the baby has their own intention, they're here for a reason, they chose to come in, and it's okay that someone else was there and died. And then also finding safety in the face of uncertainty. The truth is, we never know how long our loved ones will stay. Whether it's our children, our partners, our parents, our siblings, our friends, our animals. We just don't know. We just don't know. And what choice do we make with that uncertainty? Do we want to love? Do we want to open our hearts? Do we want to be here, even if we don't know? And if it's too scary, then what support do we need around that? And accessing the agency, the power of a choice, the adult self piece of the, oh, I have choice. I'm choosing something for myself, for my life. Yes. So this is, I have one more slide here that I have for this presentation, which is I have several resources, and then I left some time to talk, questions, sharing. I can also teach a little bit more if there's time, or lecture a little bit more. So here are some resources, and I think if I send Kate this presentation, then you all have access to these resources. You can look at that. So there's an online community of Black women on pregnancy loss and infertility, Sisters in Loss. There is SHARE, which is a pregnancy and infant loss support for families and their practitioners, nationalshare.org. Really great. There is Mommies Enduring Neonatal Death, mend.org. And this one has a Christian approach, and I think it's good. And then Kate White has created a meditation on healing miscarriage, stillbirth, loss, or abortion, and you can access that at the link that's here. And I don't know, Kate, if you want to put the link into the comments also, so people can access that. Great to pass on to your clients, great to use for yourself. There's a great writing a grief support group. And then there's 2 books that I put here. And also I put my website and my email address at the bottom if you want to reach out to me for something. And of course the mini series, where there's going to be a lot more experiential and processing and a lot more detail. Going to stop my screen share. Hello. And I'm curious if someone would like to say anything or has a question or a need.
I have question, Sada.
Great.
I have 2 questions, so I'll ask one, then we'll see if anyone else wants to ask. But how does it look when there's ancestral layers that get kicked up when you're working with a family? Like, can you tell a story or illustrate what that actually looks like or feels like?
Yes, so one way that I've seen it look and feel like is that the energy of what's arising feels so much bigger of what's there. It's just the size of it, and you feel it. You feel the vibration of it. It's like, wait a second, this feels really big. And you can feel it going back. You feel it. Sometimes you might feel like, oh, it feels like there's more people in the room all of a sudden. But just something that feels bigger and resonates in a bigger way, and that also feels more overwhelming. Or actually just had a client recently said I just feel like parts of this aren't mine. It just doesn't feel like me. I don't understand why I'm having these feelings. So they might even know it, and they might tell you. Or they might say, wow, this sounds just like what happened to my grandmother. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that we can safely, if someone's recent ancestors had experiences with war, we can safely say that they will start resonating. So if your clients come from a country where there was war when they were conceived, or where their parents were alive, you can safely assume that. And for me, I'm from Europe. There was a lot of war, much more recent than in the US, even though I do want to acknowledge some parts of the US have a lot of violence that's just like war, just as destructive and violent as war. But it is a difference working with people from Europe and those who have those more recent war imprints. And some people in Europe, they themselves went through it, even if they're younger. So especially when there are these collective death themes. So collective death is a lot bigger than just personal death. When there's collective death, again, it gets so big. It's not just my ancestral line, but it was in a collective. My whole country was facing the death layer. And there's often a lack of safety and a fear and terror imprint in the body that will come up, which is appropriate in war. The terror place. Yeah. There can be a lot of expectation, something like, oh, it's happened again, everybody will die. So there can just be a lot, very big pieces that come up. How is that?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Sara.
Mm-hmm.
We have a question in the chat from Marilyn. I don't know, Marilyn, if you would like to come on and ask yourself, or would you like me to read it out loud? I'll just read it out loud. Marilyn asks, how do you help someone who has not digested previous loss and got pregnant too soon and can't attach to the pregnancy?
Yes. Thank you, Marilyn, for bringing that up. And that happens, of course. It happens unplanned. And here I am, I'm not ready. And the baby is there, and what do I do? And the main thing is add support, and you sit with them in that feeling of how that is. You sit with them and you add layers of support, and sometimes more than one person is necessary. And you can go through those layers that I named, that one list that was there, like, yeah, and check, okay, which one is there for them? Which of those factors, like, how was it? Was it early? Was it late? What is it that makes it hard to digest? Or which aspect of it hasn't been addressed yet? And what is their intention for themselves? What do they want in this situation? What is it that they want? And I'm also really open to other people saying what they have done or what they have experienced. We have practitioners here. But yeah, the main thing is you sit with the layers until things start to become easier, because it's a double bind, right? Often there's a double bind there. Yeah. And then the other piece, of course, is naming to the baby honestly what's happening. Oh, you're here. And I didn't expect that. But I'm still processing your sibling who left. Oh, and I don't know what to do. And this is not your fault. And these are my feelings. And I'm working through them. Thank you, Marilyn. And I'm loving the resources that other people have added into the chat. Thank you. Any other comments? I can also tell some stories if you want me to.
I'll jump in and say that in working with lost moms, that if they have chosen a name for the baby that they lost, that it's really important to use that baby's name and help them say aloud and hear aloud that they are the mother to that baby.
Yes. Yes. That has not ended. That's still there. You're still the mom and you will always be. Thank you. And to honor that relationship. Yeah. Thank you.
Can
Baron.
I speak? Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, just in you know, I work with adults, so quite often doing a ritual for the baby that's been lost, and that naming and finding a tree or somewhere where they can, in a way, because quite often it's this nothing has happened, so that has been important.
Yes.
Yeah, and then Sarah, I have a client and her twin died in the womb,
Mm-hmm.
and her sister has died in the last couple of years.
Oh.
And I think her grief is profound. It's really, I think it's very much connected to her twin who we've named. She's given her twin a name. And there's a lot of anger around. It's very complex. I wonder, could you speak to that in terms of, in a way, she was left in this haunted womb? I was trying to sit with what was she experiencing from the mother's response to having lost a baby. Now, at the time, they didn't know she had twins. So they were going to do a D&C, and then they realized that she was there. So just think the medical impact on the mother, and then what she's carrying. So we've literally sat on a Zoom in silence, in darkness. We both turn off our screens, and that has really brought her comfort.
Yes.
Just to so that's. But any thoughts on that, Sarah?
Thank you. And I mean, every twin loss is so unique. So twin loss can be many different things, just like every twin relationship is really unique, very specific, very unique. So what's needed with a twin loss is unique, and you're doing so great making room to process just that experience separate from the other ones. Yeah. And take the time that needs. Yeah. And I don't know, how is the inner relationship of your client with that twin? How does your client feel towards that twin?
She, in a way, since I've been working with her, there's so much going on in her life because her sister had developed cancer, and so that's been a large part of our work. So in a way, I noted, and without kind of sorry, my chicken is cooking in the background there. Sorry about that. In a way, I've named it. When she told me about that, I've named it, and every so often I bring back your sister. I kind of really name Catherine is the name she gave her, and I keep saying she's around, that she's present as well, to try and support her to remember that, because she's very, very dysregulated at times, and it's almost like she can't energetically hold that. So it's maybe something I need to explore a bit more with her. Yeah.
And have you asked her what her intention is around her relationship with that twin, with Catherine?
It's really, she can't stay there for very long. It really is this that she's lost more recently, that and then her life's just really very chaotic. So it's very hard to even just naming it sometimes feels like an extra thing to bring to her.
Yes, and that is so big. The way that happened is so big. Yeah. And so just supporting the intention that's arising, it might be not explicitly said, but just what you're noticing is like, oh, you can touch in a little, and then it's time to leave again. Yeah. That's how big that theme is, just following that rhythm. And yeah, everything that I said also, same thing as whatever applied to the loss of a pregnancy applies here. Yeah. That relationship has not ended. There's still somebody is still there somewhere. Yeah.
Thank
you. Thank you. I'm seeing there's a comment from Nana. Nana, do you want to say it, or do you want one of us to read it?
I can also say that. I'm working. Okay. Hi, everybody. As I'm working through prenatal musical workshops with my pregnant moms, usually I have situations when some mom came with, some loss issues. And I'm always, very gently suggesting them if they want to write a song for that, baby. And it's very emotional. It can be very emotional. It's very beautiful, to get that from them, So that's my sense,
Thank
So,
you.
Thank you.
Song and dance connects us to a whole ancestry as humans. Yes, humans have been singing since before we were humans. Animals also make sounds like that, ritual sounds, singing, yeah? So it connects us to all this human heritage. It goes so deep. So I love that you're bringing in this resource, and I just love all the tools that people are bringing up. I talk about tools in the mini-series, not in this one, but I love everything you're sharing. And there's 2 people who've raised their hands. Andrea, would you like to say something? So I didn't see who was first.
Okay. First of all, I'm really blown away by this presentation. I didn't know that this existed. I can see so many places where it's crucial and has not existed before. I'm going to throw in the piece that I know, and the reason that I came. I'm studying family constellations, systemic therapy, having to do with the entire family system, going back through the ancestors. So everything that you have said, for example, that each baby has to have its own place. And there's the corollary to that is that every live child has to know their own place accurately. So if you are the first live baby in a family where there's been loss, you are not the first child, for example.
Thank you.
Right?
Yes.
So putting order in our lineage and having our own places is extremely important. The other piece that I love the ways that you've identified places where it's possible to work and to help. So I want to show one more place that I know of. When a family constellation is done, they choose representatives for the client. So you would have the client, the lost child, the client's mother, whatever represented the pieces of the particular loss. It puts it a little bit separate from the client so that it is something that can be watched instead of experienced, which is more comfortable perhaps. But also family constellations give you the opportunity to go back into the previous generations where something similar has happened and it's happening again, and to work with it in the past. Then you're also working toward healing the future so that it doesn't have to be going down the family line over and over again. So I just throw that out there. This is a piece of working in the broader context of this system, whereas what we're talking about today, and is so special, and I will take this course, working with the individual and the family who've experienced the immediate loss. So thank you so much. This is just a thrilling presentation.
And I really love everybody's experience coming in. Feels like we're all just sitting together in the living room and sharing our wisdom.
I have to hop off, excuse
me.
Sorry.
And I want to hear what Emma has to say, and then I think we have to go. Is that still okay, Kate? Can we still hear Emma? Thank you for being generous. Emma.
Mine is a practical question. So I'm a newly graduated professional counselor, and I would like to make this work my avenue of focus. And so I'm really asking a question of advice, like where do you even start if you want to kind of really lean into this work? I have found multiple different things online, and obviously there's different things in different countries. And so I really just wanted to ask that question of like, I know there's just so many pieces that come into it, like trauma work, prenatal, postnatal work, just kind of curious what advice you'd give to someone who's wanting to start on this journey of making their life's work to be this support for people, and also as a peer who has experienced loss. And so I just wanted to bring that question, and if that's appropriate question for the space.
I'm fine with that. And when you say this work, you mean pre and perinatal work? Or do you mean
Yes,
work?
yes. So what we're talking about, and like focusing on being that support that is needed that we're talking about.
Okay. Well, you've come to the right place. I don't know how many courses Kate has, but she has so many. I would go to an online learning center and really have a look. There's so many resources and so many different layers that are offered. And then, of course, there are several teachers who are offering in-person trainings also. Kate, but yours is also in person. Yours is hybrid?
Yes. Mine, I have them in person right now. Yes.
So there are teachers in different parts of the world. Mary Jackson, who's here, and Tara Blasco, they teach foundation trainings. There's the Association of Pre and Perinatal Psychology, APA. And so there's really a field of pre and perinatal psychology that's important to connect with and understand the history of that field. I think that's all I want to say right now, because it's a longer conversation. And Kate is a great resource. Also feel free to reach out to me. They're great teachers who are teaching. Yeah.
Emma, what country are you in?
I'm in Canada, BC. Yeah.
Is Myrna still teaching trainings? I don't know if she still is, but Myrna Martin used to teach in BC. And Mary Jackson and Tara Blasco just started a training in California. So trainings are definitely happening, in-person trainings. And Kate just started one in New York. So yeah, and there's others that are happening as well. You can also fly to Spain for trainings.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing, is trying to find what is accessible. Like I found that there is stuff around the world. It's just what is also, yeah, just accessible.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that and make sure to look
Thank you.
at the website and also ask her questions, and also look at the Castellino training website, castellinotraining.com, I think, and see what's there. And I'm also happy to answer an email.
And I put my email in the chat, and I
Great.
could definitely recommend things as well.
Great. I see more messages, and we're at the end of our time. I appreciate all of you for sharing. Now there's one person who's raised their hand. Kate, I need you to be the one who's holding the time.
Well, can you stay a few more minutes, Sada?
I can stay a few more minutes. It's Sunday. Karen had her hand.
Karen O'Neill. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Not so much a question. I just wanted to thank you for the talk. It's just yeah, it's just given me so much clarity, you know, around my own family, my mother and my sister, and but you know, like you said, it's, to me, it's much bigger than that. You know, it goes further back than stopping there. And yeah, it's just like a bit of a dance, you know, sort of resourcing and taking care of myself, and then being there for my mum and my sister, and the difficulties that they go through.
Yeah, so you're if I may say something.
Sure.
You're saying how powerful it is just to have these layers named. That's all we did. Yeah, we named the layers, and that in itself, just that simple activity, was helpful for you and orienting. And you're also noticing, oh, there's some room for support. Yeah.
Yeah, just how helpful it is. Yeah, just so informative, and yeah, and it just kind of makes more sense, you know. You're talking about the shame and the guilt, and anger and different things, you know, like we getting a broader perspective on yeah, just the more clarity, you know, around it. It's just how it's I guess, you know, from my perspective, it's hard to see how my mum and my sister are together, whereas, you know, it's kind of, for me, it's like really they want that secure bonding, but what happens is you know, it's not helpful, and it's
Karen, can
it's
I
a challenge.
can I interrupt you there?
Of course.
Yes. I'm hearing you having all these insights and perceiving things in your family system that you weren't aware before, maybe. And I'm
Yeah,
learning
kind of was, but
so
just
much.
not to this degree, you know.
Yeah. And I'm learning that 1 hour is really not long enough for this topic. That's my new insight. And we do have to come to an ending. We have to move forward. And there is that 3-part miniseries, and it's very reasonably priced. Kate White suggested the price. That's so low. I really invite you all to have a look at that. And yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Sada, and thank you, Karen O'Neill. We have now this 3-part series starting March 4th, with March 4th, 11, and 18, 3 90-minute lectures, and it's on the courage to love again, supporting secure prenatal attachment after pregnancy loss. And so we'll be exploring these topics in more depth. The first one is called pregnancy loss, love, and heartbreak. The second one is transitioning from loss to a new beginning. And the third one is a new love, opening our hearts and bodies to receive a being again. So those of us who are listening, please consider joining us. I'll send out this recording as well, and with a link to the actual 3-part series, and we'll hope to see you there. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Being here and offering your words.
And it was nice to see so many faces that I know. Thanks, Fern. It's nice to see you.
Yeah.
And you too, Karen. It's wonderful to see you. So thank you all for coming. We'll see you next time.
Kate,